Narcissists tell the truth. What are your thoughts on that statement? When I say narcissists tell the truth, what comes up for you? Because I need you to know there typically is one aspect when narcissists do tell the truth. There is one way that they typically tell the truth. Today we're going to be talking about narcissism versus authenticity. Like, what does it actually look like when we bring truth into the situation, and how does it actually match up with narcissism? If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to help liberate women that are trapped in toxic relationships. I work with a few men that have identified, hey, I'm narcissistic. I don't know how to heal with this. I don't know if I can actually change this. And we focus on truth. Because how does that actually match up when we're talking about narcissism? What does it actually look like? Inside this piece of truth, I mentioned this simple statement that narcissists tell the truth. And I want you to think about that for a couple minutes. Where do they do this? How do they actually do this? Because the majority of time, narcissists are avoiding truth. They're avoiding reality. Narcissists typically will construct a false sense of reality. Now, this doesn't mean that he's schizophrenic, and it doesn't mean that he's like just living in this other world and like kind of like walking around in VR world thinking that it's different than what it actually is, but it's like a fantasy. It's like this alternate reality that he's constructing so that he can actually live and exist in a way that doesn't have him look like he's the bad guy. Imagine if you could flip a switch and you were the best person in the world. Like, you were the greatest person in the world. You were the most engaged, loving, kind person. You just felt amazing about yourself. And then imagine if you flip that switch and you realize that you were exactly opposite. This is what the narcissist is creating. He's creating this false sense of reality to make himself feel better. He's stepping into a version of his own quote-unquote truth so he feels better about himself. Making himself get pumped up to feel like the nice guy. Making himself get validated by other people. So he's like, yeah, I'm the nice guy. To work on building up and constructing that mask and that image in front of other people so that he looks like the nice guy. There's also multiple different variations and forms of it, but narcissists oftentimes are trying to be able to construct a version of themselves that's appeasing to the world so that they feel better about who they are inside. Now, what does that say just on the surface level? Surface level, it shows you there's a lot of insecurity. You're like, that doesn't make sense. Narcissists seem so secure, so confident, so sure in who they are. Yeah, because they have to be sure in the mask. Because if you start to see through it, it shatters. If you start to peel back the curtain of what's actually underneath, it starts to disintegrate. And so when we bring about this piece of narcissism and authenticity, of telling the truth, it's a heavy topic. Because narcissists don't want to tell the truth about themselves because what they've been constructing has been a false reality. It's been a mask, something to be able to put in front of themselves, keeping them at bay from you. And this is why narcissists don't get deep relationships. They don't go deep into connection, heart and soul. Instead, it's just connecting on a certain level. It's a surface level that's kind of keeping the relationship going, but isn't authentic. It's not true. You see, inside of all the fantasies and the fiction that the narcissist is focusing on building together, he's trying to construct this so he doesn't have to acknowledge the truth. Now, it's hard because when he's lying to you and when he's telling you a bunch of white lies, half-truths, omission, lies, just all together, it seems like he believes it. Like he's so confident that this is true. It makes you start to doubt your own resolve, your own truth. Now, we need to kind of define this so you understand this a little bit more because truth is subjective. It is. Have you not seen social media and like censorship? Have you not seen truth based on you're convinced that this is the political candidate and you talk to someone else and they're like, this is the political candidate. And you focus on someone else and like, no, it's neither one. Because each of you have your own version of truth. You have your own reality of like, hey, this is what I believe. This is what's true to me. This is what happens inside the toxic relationship. He has his own truth. You have your own truth. And those truths clash. Those truths don't connect because they're not built on the same morals. They're not built on the same facts. They're not built on the same evidence of what's actually being shown. So you're like, well, this is true, but it doesn't match up to his actions. This is why truth doesn't matter. What do I mean when I say that? Truth doesn't matter. What I mean to say is your truth, his truth, my truth doesn't matter. Because all of those are built on perceptions and perspectives of what you see, what you think, your upbringing, like what you were conditioned early on to believe and understand, the rules, the regulations that were placed on your life from an early age, from previous relationships, of how to operate, of how to think, your morality, your religion, all of this comes into play here that says, this is my truth. But oftentimes the truth isn't backed up with a simple piece of facts. This is where facts and truth differ a little bit. We have these handy phrases of the truth will set you free. But in reality, the narcissist is believing his own truth, and he's not free. In reality, you've been believing your truth for a good period of time, and maybe you're still watching my content because you're not free. And what I mean by this is you might have constructed your own story, your own version of reality to justify staying. Like, well, I'm just staying for the kids because they need to have two parents. Yeah, because toxicity really helps the kids. Well, I'm just staying because he's just emotionally immature and he needs my support. That's a good way to justify the abuse that's happening to you. Well, I'm just staying so if I love him better, then he'll get better. Yeah, that's a great story that you're telling yourself that's never happened and he keeps cheating on you. You need to understand your truth doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in the moment is the facts, because the facts are the only thing that's going to set you free, not the truth, because your truth has been skewed for such a long period of time because you've been in the toxic relationship. You believe the lies. You believe the shit that he's put on you. You've been belittled, beat down, manipulated, confused, gaslit, and you're like, this is my truth. I believe it. But is it actually real? Is it actually factual? Because some of you watching this today have this truth inside of you that's like, he loves me. And I'd have you consider if you had to go into court today and you had to lay out the evidence on a different level, the evidence that says, these are all of the facts of how he loves me. What would you come up with? Like, what would you have to show as Exhibit A? You're like, Exhibit A, he pays the bills. We're like, well, if you didn't have him, you'd have to pay the bills. So how is that love? Well, Exhibit B, he comes home at night. Okay, so does my dog. Okay, well, Exhibit C, and you start going down the list of things and you start to realize that all of your examples, all of your ideas, all of your quote-unquote facts in that moment are just based on your truth and on your perception, not based on reality. This is why we even have the journal here that's on Amazon, From Fantasy to Reality, because we need to help get you out of the fiction, out of the shit that you're in, back to what is actually true, based on the facts. Narcissists don't want to look at the facts because the facts are accountable and responsible and exposing and shameful, and they feel guilty. So a narcissist runs from the facts every single time. So we talk through this piece of narcissism and authenticity. What do we end up with? Narcissists are not authentic. Narcissists do not want to be authentic. Narcissists can't be authentic. Why? Because they're unwilling to embrace the facts. They're unwilling to view the problems that they actually have. They're unwilling to actually take a look internally and be like, oh, this is what's going on. Like, if he is not willing to be honest about his situation, if he's not willing to be vulnerable with his emotions, if he's not willing to consistently look inwards to actually transform himself, you have no relationship and you need to run. Because he's not willing to embrace the facts. He's not willing to look at the facts, and he's not willing to be honest, and he's not willing to be truthful. But remember, I mentioned earlier, I said narcissists are truthful in one way. Did you think of it? What is it? A narcissist is oftentimes truthful in how he projects. You see, you're upset because how he hurt you, and he starts projecting onto you that you're raging until you start raging. He'll start projecting onto you that you're sad until you're sad. He'll start projecting onto you that you're cheating until you finally admit that, yeah, finally I looked at someone. And this is when the narcissist is actually self-confessing, when he's telling the truth, when he's actually projecting, he's actually saying, hey, I'm the one cheating. By the way, I think you're the cheater, so I feel better about the fact that I'm the cheater. By the way, I have all this rage, so by the way, I'm going to tell you that you have all this rage so that when you rage out, I feel better because then we're both raging out. Narcissists tell the truth when it comes to projection. It's really the only place. So when you're hearing him projecting, blaming, pushing stuff onto you, understand that's a piece of him self-confessing and saying, hey, this is who I am. I'm the liar, the cheater, the gaslighter, the abuser, the person projecting all this shit onto you because I'm not willing to look at the facts. I'm not willing to embrace the truth. I'm not willing to be vulnerable. And I'm not willing to consistently do the hard work inside. If you're ready to do the consistent hard work inside and actually go from trapped to freedom, then reach out today. There's a link down below in the video or in the podcast that should be rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Click on that. I want you to watch a video that I put together to help you understand the common mistakes that you're making, trying to help the narcissist, trying to fix the narcissist, or sabotaging your own healing and growth. Click on that today, and we'll see about talking.